there is no office where the unwritten constitution of this land is protected more than by the Speaker of the House of Commons.
Hello, what's your name? Peter. Oh, that's a good name. There you are, dear. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best. Lovely to see you.
Thanks for
Did I shake hands with you?
Yes.
Freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom of movement, the great freedoms that make life worth living. I put the amendments with permission of the House en bloc. The question is the amendments be made. As many as are of that opinion say aye, the contrary no. The ayes have it, the ayes have it. Amendment 121. The question is the amendment be made. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary no. I think the ayes have it. Clear the lobby.
The first time I went in wearing the wig and gown, realizing I was in the long line of speakers of this House, I was nervous. When I walked through the central lobby with that crowd watching the Speaker's procession, I thought my legs were made of wood. But I persuaded myself that they were not looking at my face, they were looking at the wig and the gown, and all speakers look alike.
Right.
There's a significance even in the dress that I wear, which is unchanged for centuries. In our long history, we have had only 7 speakers who are not lawyers. I'm one, I'm pleased to say, and we wear a lawyer's outfit, the tabs, the wig, the gown. It's the lawyer, because the Speaker is dispensing justice within the House. I believe in the ceremonial because it's all symbolic. It gives a message of its own, unspoken but very real, and it helps in the dignity of the House itself, I think.
When you take the chair in the House of Commons, I understand you're sitting in a very special place.
Before the Great Fire, there was an altar behind the Speaker's chair, but the chamber had been replaced without the altar. But because the Speaker's chair used to be in front of the altar, members continued to bow to the Speaker. So when they bow to the Speaker today, they're not bowing to the individual. They're bowing to the greater authority that's behind him. That's God Almighty.
Sir Noel Short, you are the Speaker's secretary. What quality would you regard as being most important in the Speaker?
I would say the most important quality is humanity in these days. 20, 30, 40 years ago, one might have said that the most important quality in the Speaker was complete impartiality. I think nowadays one can probably take that for granted and say that the most important quality in a speaker is an understanding of his fellow creatures.
Impartiality between both sides of the House, between the government and the opposition, a knowledge of procedure, a certain amount of charm. I think George has got all that, by the way, because he's Welsh. Yeah, I would say they're the main qualities, but his knowledge of procedure is really paramount. Of course he is advised, but then when you've had all the experience that Thomas has had, I think there's no doubt he just falls back on his own expertise.
One's got to recognise that with 635 members, all of whom are anxious to intervene on particular matters, it is an enormous disappointment to members if they're not given the opportunity to do so, particularly if they're not given the opportunity to do so time after time after time.
It's not so much when we're noisy. We're often noisy, but there's no harm in that. It's when we're angry, and very angry, that the Speaker's difficulties arise. And that is, of course, where the long and mature judgment of a Speaker of the House, and his having been part of it himself for so many years, is an essential asset. But even that wouldn't get him anywhere unless he had the right sort of humour for the House of Commons. And in one sentence, a really good Speaker can make the House lay aside its anger sufficiently to carry on.
You know, I've given way several times to his honourable friend.
Order!
It may well be very...
Order! If the minister's not giving way, the honourable... Well, he gave away as soon as I turned my head. I should have... I should have turned it sooner. Mr. Renton.
If we can have the gift of humour, that's a blessing. I remember recently when a member from Liverpool was speaking with a lovely Liverpudlian accent. And one of the Scottish members got up on a point of order to protest that she couldn't understand a word that he was saying. He was so indignant. And I got up and I said, there are many accents in this house. I only wish I had one myself.
It is very much an in-game. We know the man we are barracking. And if we shout, lie down, for instance, it isn't just abuse. We happen to know that that member 25 or 30 years ago lay down in front of a taxi in the course of a strike. So everybody knows why we shout, lie down to him. It's not just silly, it has a meaning. And in any case, it is one of the ways in which ministers are, as they should be, cut down to size, that they actually might find themselves shouted at, or laughed at, or made fun of. Now, when they walk through their ministries, yes sir, no sir, that doesn't happen to them. But in the end, they ought to be people who can take it, or if they can't take it, well, they ought to be ministers, not in a democracy.
Not for me to say. No, I'm not, because I wish to finish. Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the Right Honourable member for some obscure constituency in Devon?
Those of us who've been here a long time, and even the new members, soon catch the atmosphere that the Speaker is the centre, he's out of the battle, he must be listened to, and the House is finished if the Speaker's word does not prevail. It usually does. And,
when it doesn't, what happens?
Well, then you suspend the sitting. I've only had to do it once, and I hope I don't have to do it again. That was the night when the mace was lifted up, and I must say that it all happened within 2 minutes, with 600 members trying to get out of the chamber. There are seats for 400 only, as I expect you know. They were jammed, standing around the Speaker's chair, below the bar of the House, sitting in the aisles. They all wanted to get out together. There was high tension because I'd had to give a casting vote. And then in the second vote, there was a majority of 1 for the government. So tempers were a little frayed. Never say any more than that in this place. But before you could say Jack Robinson, there was trouble. So I suspended it and left for 20 minutes, left the chair. When I came back, people were much more subdued, but I suspended it until next day because I realized all the tinder was there for another scene. I always pray before I go into the chamber, always. I'm asking for wisdom and patience and humor. When I come out, if I've had a rough time, and it's possible, as anybody who's been in the Strangers' Gallery of the House knows, it can be very difficult for the Speaker. It can be tension in the air. Somebody's got hurt. I come back up and I'm by myself. I say another prayer. I have a cup of tea. And then I try, if I've got an hour on my own, I try to occupy myself with writing, doing something that will take me out of the tension and going over in my mind, did I do the right thing, or was I too severe? Because once you start asking that sort of question, you're finished.
You're surrounded by many people, but isn't there a curious solitude about the life of the Speaker?
That's true. I'm given this great house and expected to stay here. I'm not allowed to go into the members' tea room, the members' smoke room, the library, or anywhere where members gather. I surmount this problem by inviting members to come and see me and have a chat, have a cup of tea, and then I'm able to hear what the talk is in the House, what the mood is in the House, because it's easy to get out of touch with movements of opinion there, and it's vital for a Speaker to have the feel of the House. Now, every week and every day the House is sitting, I have somebody from the floor of the House up to talk to me. But it's not like the old days when I would go into the tea room and sit down and enjoy myself and tell stories and laugh with the boys. I am the Speaker. And they never forget it, even when they come in for a friendly chat, because you're treated differently. There's a sense of apartness, although I'm one of them.
This is a magnificent state apartment in which you live, and you're right on the River Thames.
Well, when you remember my father was a miner and I grew up in Tonopandi, you can understand that I appreciate this place. It's not exactly what I was used to. Now, this is the state dining room where I entertain visitors from overseas and, of course, distinguished people in our own country. It's one of the loveliest dining rooms in the whole of the country. It dates back to the Great Fire of 1830. It was completed in 1835 by Pugin. The first speaker was Sir Thomas Hungerford in 1376. Before that, the Parliament had chosen a chairman merely to preside. But because Sir Thomas Hungerford was given the job of speaking to the monarch of the day, he was called the Speaker. The greatest speaker, of course, was Speaker Onslow, who was Speaker for 34 years. He shaped the character of the modern speakership. He made the Speaker independent of party. He gave the Speaker authority to make rules which the House would accept. I think that the pressure in a modern Parliament is very different from what it was for Speaker Onslow. The hours, the amount of legislation, and he didn't have the party system to contend with, as a modern speaker has.
People talk about catching the Speaker's eye. Now, exactly how do they do it?
Well, in the past decade, the custom has grown up for members who wish to speak in a debate to write a note to the Speaker. I always have a large number of letters telling me members why they ought to speak in this debate, special constituency interest, or they've always specialized in that subject. But even those who don't write in can jump up, and the Speaker is guided by having a balanced debate, if possible. And it might mean calling in people who, although they're on the same side, are against each other on that particular issue. You've got to balance it. I try to balance the debate geographically to make sure the Southwest comes in as well as Lancashire, or the Scots as well as the Welsh. It's a real balancing act.
Members who want to speak during a debate will normally contact this office here to let us know their wishes. And if any member has a particular reason for wanting to speak or for wanting to intervene, then he usually comes along and we then provide the list for the Speaker.
Remember, there must be ministerial responsibility, and you can't ask for legislation on the adjournment.
That's right. It's true attention and employment problem. You know the problem I've got.
My job is to stand alongside the Speaker and advise him of any members who are seeking to catch his eye, sometimes to prepare a list in complicated cases of those who are getting up so that he can have something in front of him when he's obliged to choose individual members out of a number of possibly 20 or 30 seeking to catch his eye.
I pride myself that I know everyone who jumps up. My class is 635, but there are some who are there more regularly than others because of committee work and so on. We see them. You can never forget them. But if you get a blackout, or, you know, it might be a wrong expression, but on one day, Mr. Amory got up, who I've known for 25 years. And I looked at him, and the House realized I'd forgotten his name, and they laughed, and I pointed. And then somebody said, Amory, Mr. Amory. Well, the House likes you to make a mistake now and again, as long as it's not too serious.
Although you're Speaker of the House of Commons, you are a constituency MP. How do you manage to function as a Member of Parliament who looks after his own people?
Oh, quite easily. I hold my surgery for constituents every 3 weeks, the same as I did before. I go around my hospitals and factories and schools. The only thing that I don't do is make party political speeches, and they can bear that with fortitude. As for looking after their interests, they really are better off because I can give all my time to them now.
We're only on a casual basis now. When we finish, we go back on the dole and that's it, like, you know. But that's the problem, like.
Well, if you drop me a line,
Yeah.
because I'm down here, as you know, every fortnight at any rate,
Yes.
I'll meet you all and discuss the problem together, see what can be done.
Yes, that'd be very nice.
And then I'll take it up with the minister responsible.
Okay,
Right.
Mr. Janice, thank you very much. Thank you.
Ta-da.
Okay,
Glad
thank
to
you.
see you.
I'm the General Secretary of the Sikh Temple. We haven't got a priest at the Sikh Temple. He's gone to India. So...
The Sikhs are a first-class part of the Riverside ward in my constituency. They have a great sense of social responsibility for their own people.
What did they want this time?
This time they were anxious to have a priest for their temple. The priest who was there has gone back to India, and due to the immigration laws, there's some difficulty about getting a priest to come in to look after them. Oh, you've just come over? Yes. Oh, well, welcome to Wales. I'm glad to see you. Would you let me have the details? Ah, Mr. Singh, it's like Mr. Jones in Wales. Do you think I could have... You've got a copy. Yes. Shall I have the copy?
Yes.
And you have the original. Yes. And I'll take it up with the Home Office and we'll see if I can help you. I will, because I know that the community needs a priest. You need the leadership, and it's a good anchor for your young people. How will he be sustained? Will you... He won't be on social security at all?
No.
And I wanted to clear that out.
Just to help of the society of the
wages. He won't be getting any wages paid.
No, but he'll be maintained by the community.
Yes.
I think it's good that you are getting together like this to want him. I'll do my best to help you.
Thank you very much.
I've promised to take it up with the Home Office because I believe as long as they hold on to their religion, they've got an anchor which will help them in society and help them in their family life as well. You formed this week, did you?
Yes, we formed on Thursday.
As soon as you saw the statement?
Yes.
I think that the best course is for me to come up to the hospital next weekend, meet you all and discuss strategy.
Well, that's what we were hoping, you know, if you have the time.
Well, I'll make the time. Oh, well, I must, because I know that hospital, Glaneely Hospital, very well. It's where we have our old people. I loathe the term geriatric, as though they're different from the rest of us. I believe the medical world have done us no favour in calling old people geriatrics. But these old people whom I've known for many years, end their days, a lot of them, in Glaneely. And now there's a proposal to close it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of emotion. I've been linked to that hospital a great deal, and I shall involve myself in the struggle as the local MP. Saturday.
Yes, you said.
Is Saturday morning all right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, once I come home to Cardiff, I'm not the Speaker in Cardiff West. I'm George Thomas, the member for Cardiff West. If it wasn't for these people, I'd never be in Parliament, leave alone be Speaker. And I always feel quite happy and easy when I'm here in Cardiff, because the people know me and I know them.
You are a convinced believer in the Christian faith, and in fact tomorrow you're going to be preaching.
That's right. I'm going into the heart of Gloucestershire, into the Forest of Dean, where I'll have a village community, and I know they'll sing their heads off, and I'll enjoy singing with them. This has been a very important part of my life, and I'm very proud to have had my long service certificate for preaching from the Methodist Church.
Good morning, Mr. Thomas. Welcome to Marine. It's a great to see you. We are well aware this morning that Mr. Thomas could easily have been found leading worship in one of our large Methodist central halls or other churches. In his capacity as a Methodist local preacher, a service that he has given to our church for over 40 years, we thank you most warmly for coming along today and leading our worship.
Our sturdy fathers believed that Jesus Christ was the Son of God who claimed every man, every baby born, for God Almighty. They knew in their heart that the handicapped and the underprivileged, the strong and the powerful, all alike were made to walk with God Himself. This is the belief on which we have established our way of life.
Why do you come to a small chapel like this to preach?
Well, I grew up in a small community, and I find it rich in fellowship. I go away much inspired by God bless. God bless dear. It's a lovely church you have.
Very friendly.
I must say, you're lucky to be growing up here. Bye.
Bye-bye.
No, I'm very lovely. Yeah. Ben is through, yeah.
I hope I won't break it for you, dear.
I want to ask you, Mr. Speaker, a question about your political career. You were a politician, you are a politician, but in a way, when you became Speaker, you sacrificed your political career. Or was it a sacrifice?
That's the greatest sacrifice of all. When a man is elected Speaker and he has to give up loyalties of a lifetime, people hardly know what they're asking of him. Of course it's difficult. It's not hard to be impartial, but it's very difficult when you cannot speak on great issues where, like everybody else in the House, you have your own feelings. And therefore, I believe the heaviest price a man pays for the tremendous honor of being Speaker is that he has to realize that the political side of his life is finished, it's over, and he's never going back to it. That's the serious thought, because once the Speaker, you're out of the battle.
Why did you take the job?
Well, because I love this House. I have been here for 32 years. I've grown up with an enormous respect and awe for the office of the Speaker, and I took the job realizing that it would mean the end of my party political career, but also realizing that I was called to serve Parliament in a new role. And the Speaker is the guardian, as many honourable members in this House have reminded me, of our unwritten constitution. There is no office where the unwritten constitution of this land is protected more than by the Speaker of the House of Commons. His rulings become part of the constitution of the land. And therefore, most people would consider it an overwhelming honour to be called to serve in the chair, but he pays a price that cannot be measured by any formula known to man.